On today's show, we'll take a look at the new settlement that the government had with the banks over foreclosures. Who really benefits, banks or homeowners? Broadcasters are set to rake in a record $5 billion in the 2012 elections using your public airwaves. And after Fox News accuses the Muppets of being anti-capitalist, Miss Piggy fires back. I'm Jared Jacang Mayer. Each week, we bring you stories from the front lines of the Occupy Wall Street movement and give the microphone to you, the 99%. You're watching Occupy the Media. Okay, so by now you've heard about Occupy Wall Street. You may have even seen an Occupy protest happening in your hometown. But what's it all about and what's really at stake? The 1% media, the corporate media, has its take, but what about the rest of us, the 99%? Free Speech TV is launching this show to start a different kind of conversation. We'll talk about money in politics, Wall Street banks, student loans, and foreclosures, but we'll also take a look at how so-called ordinary Americans are organizing to take their communities back. So let's get started. Sitting here in our studio today, we have Marcy Miranda, Free Speech TV's news producer, and executive director Don Rojas. And we want you to join the conversation too, so give us a call toll-free at 877-575-FSTV. So over the weekend, activists from across the country gathered in Wichita, Kansas for a day of action called Occupy Coketown. Let's take a look.
Asserting their First Amendment rights, occupiers confronted the 1% on their own front porch, headquarters of Koch Industries in Wichita, Kansas. 150 protesters marched in the streets to oppose the controversial Keystone XL oil pipeline. The march was organized by Occupy groups from Kansas and Missouri, joined by the Sierra Club. It was part of a series of events planned over the weekend that focused on energy and environmental policies. Participants say they were rallying against the ecological hazards that would come with such a massive oil project. Koch Industries has denied any involvement in the Keystone pipeline, despite the fact that the company would benefit immensely if the project was approved. The push for the Keystone XL pipeline has been stalled by the Obama administration for now, but activists aren't letting up. They say Republicans and other members of Congress are set to reintroduce the pipeline proposal through a legislative sleight of hand. For Occupy the Media, this is Caroline Briggs.
So Occupy Coketown. A lot of people have heard about the Koch brothers as big funders of right-wing causes, and a lot of people have heard about this Keystone XL pipeline that's being proposed, but this event there in Wichita really brought both of those issues together.
It did, actually. The occupiers were planning this event for several months, really bringing attention to it and really trying to encourage people from all over the country to come, to descend upon Wichita and to deliver a message to the Koch brothers and Koch Industries, since they're headquartered in Wichita, about the damage that they're doing really to the environment mostly.
And the piece noted that while the Koch brothers and Koch Industries may not be directly involved with this proposed XL pipeline, they would benefit financially?
Yeah, they own dozens of refineries in Texas, which is ultimately where the pipeline would end up. So they would definitely be benefiting from all of the oil coming in. In addition, they would be putting money into the infrastructure itself to get all this oil from Canada across Kansas down to Texas.
Don, Occupy Coketown, what do you make of it?
I love it. I mean, here is Wichita, Kansas, heartland America, the very center of the country, in the middle of winter. Scores of protesters marching through downtown Wichita, Kansas, taking the fight directly to the headquarters of a company of the 1%. The Koch brothers obviously have become almost the iconic face of the power of the corporate power of the 1%. And so I also like the fact that the protesters collaborated on this action with some of the mainstream environmental groups, such as the Sierra Clubs of both Kansas and Missouri.
And Marcy, this collaboration, I guess, between environmentalists who have been deeply focused on this Keystone XL pipeline issue for a long time and occupiers. Is this something that we've seen elsewhere in terms of environmentalists and the Occupy movement?
I think definitely not. It's not a new thing. The occupiers have been really good about really reaching out to different groups, different communities across the nation and saying some of the interests that you have and some of the interests that we have are similar. So let's join forces and really, work at it together, because that's ultimately how change will happen.
And so this pipeline proposal is stalled right now because the Obama administration kind of sent it back to say we need to review this more. But this is an election year, and things could change. Do we anticipate that, keeping the focus on the Koch brothers and the pipeline will make a difference?
Well, I think the focus should be kept on the Koch brothers in this election year. They alone, out of their own bank accounts, are going to be pumping tens of millions of dollars into supporting right-wing politicians all across the country and opposing the re-election of President Obama. So we've got to keep an eye on the Koch brothers, no question about it.
So we have lots more stories, so let's turn our focus now to an action happening in Chicago where parents, teachers, and students are occupying the Brian Piccolo Specialty School. It's in a low-income neighborhood. Marcy, what's the story here?
You've got Occupy Chicago that teamed up with these parents in Chicago's Humboldt Park to occupy an elementary school, essentially. It's one of 16 schools that Chicago Public Schools is thinking of closing down. The school district says that it's because it's not meeting those testing requirements. But parents said, look, you just gave us a new principal, we've got a new teaching staff, give us a chance to really show that we can come out and improve.
So to protest this proposed shutting down of this school, they occupied it? What did they actually do?
They did. They literally went in last Friday and they sat there, about 30 parents did, and they stayed there, and they stayed until Saturday when Chicago public school officials came out and said, listen, we'll have a meeting with you. You can talk to our superintendent. You can talk to some district officials about your concerns.
Yeah, this is so reminiscent of this, the sit-in type actions that were taken very often during the early days of the civil rights movement 40 years ago. You see the echoes of the tactics and the philosophy of the civil rights movement being reflected in the modern day Occupy movement. The Occupy movement has always, from the very beginning, raised the issue of the inequity in terms of distribution of resources between the public school system and the private school system. And here is a classic example of the need for more support, public support, as well as government support, to improve the quality of public education, especially in inner city neighborhoods like this one in Chicago.
And so, Marcy, as you said, this it does seem that the district officials are willing to meet with parents and the Occupy Chicago protesters to discuss the future of this school?
Yeah, those are sort of the next steps. That's how they got the parents to actually leave the school. So they're going to sit down in the near future and kind of talk about things and see if they can come to some resolutions.
And the other thing that's notable to me, Don, when you were mentioning that, I thought, well, actually, the act of occupying something, it seems really new to us right now in 2012, because the Occupy movement has just grown so much. But actually, the tactic of just putting yourself physically in a place and refusing to move,
right?
It's not that new.
Not that new. It's tried. It's tested. And it's an effective form of civil disobedience. And we are seeing these kinds of actions replicated in Occupy protests across the country. Remember the group of kids at the University of California, Davis, who were pepper sprayed? They just knelt down in a long line, all right, and were very peaceful, didn't say anything while they were being sprayed by the campus police, but it was their form of expressing their protests.
Okay, well, let's talk about another recent protest, this one having to do with jobs. AT&T made $126 billion last year, and the CEO alone took home $27 million in compensation, but now they're going to lay off hundreds of workers. Marcy, what are people protesting there?
It's basically these employees coming out and saying, you're taking away our jobs, you're taking away our benefits, and they teamed up with the Communication Workers of America and with Occupy Atlanta, and I actually had a chance to sit down and talk to someone with Occupy Atlanta who's been working with them and was able to give me more of the story.
Okay, so this participant in Occupy Atlanta, her name is Lady Mansfield, and you had an interview with her, so let's check it out.
Lady, thank you so much for being with us today. So talk about these nearly 800 AT&T employees in Atlanta that are at risk of losing their job. What was their initial reaction when they got these pink slips, and how was it that they connected with Occupy Atlanta?
Well, Communication Workers of America reached out to Atlanta, the Georgia Communication Workers of America, and asked if we could possibly help them in addressing this issue. So along with Teamsters and Jobs for Justice, we decided to have 12 go inside of the building of AT&T and refuse to leave until the jobs that had been told would be laid off were rescinded. And we also set up an occupation on the outside. At that time, those that would be laid off didn't know, because there was not a exact name to the number of layoffs that would be happening.
So AT&T just announced that they were going to lay off a certain number of employees, but didn't really give any specifics. I've also read, though, that AT&T later on went to say that these employees that were going to get pink slips would be eligible to get jobs in other divisions. Why is that still a problem for AT&T employees? Why is Occupy Atlanta still working with them to fight this?
Well, the truth is, layoffs at all are not acceptable. The CEO alone made $27 million only in bonuses last year. And additional to that, those opportunities that AT&T have stated that those that are laid off would have, they come with less benefits, with a much lower pay, and the majority of them are not even contract. And that's even at all if that offer is given, which is not guaranteed to every person that's laid off.
Okay, so talk about the next steps for Occupy Atlanta and these AT&T employees. What are they looking forward to now? What are the actions that are going to be coming up soon?
Well, Occupy Atlanta plans on staying at AT&T camping out. We have tents set up all around. Every day we're protesting, we're bringing light. We plan on doing that until 740 jobs are rescinded, the layoffs. Today, 2 sets went in to find out that they would be those that are getting the pink slips to say, you no longer have a job. We want that to change. They need their job, and not only their job, they need their job with the benefits that they had, with the contracts that were there, and with their pay rate. So we're continuing to be there, and we will continue to work with CWA, Jobs with Justice, Grandmothers for Peace, all of those that have joined into AT&T rescinds all 740 jobs.
Great, Lady. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
That was an interview with Lady Mansfield from Occupy Atlanta. And so, Marcy, apparently AT&T has actually told these 740 workers that they're going to be laying off that they would be able to get another job within AT&T's wireless division. So I don't understand what the big deal is here.
I think the biggest issue for them is that it's the type of job that they're going to be receiving. Right now they've got jobs where they've got benefits, and these new jobs aren't going to be offering that. They're offering lower salaries, they're not offering benefits, they're contract positions, and for the workers it's kind of a slap in the face to say we're taking this great job that you have now, taking it away, and we're going to give you this other job so that you can say that you still have a job and you're not unemployed, but it's not the same type of job, and it's, I would think, affecting their quality of living.
Okay, well, and Dawn, I'll want to get to your thoughts on this in a sec, but let's give our viewers a chance to weigh in. Give us a call at 877-575-FSTV. We're calling this a telephone mic check. If you've ever been to an Occupy General Assembly, you know what a mic check is, but in case you haven't, let's take a quick second to unpack this concept. Marcy, what is a mic check?
It's essentially a call and response. You've got one person who's got the floor and they'll say something, and that's echoed by people that are directly around them, and then that's echoed by people further out. So you're unifying really this one voice and making sure that everyone who's in the General Assembly can hear what this one person is saying.
Okay, well, why don't we watch a video of that so people can check it out.
Mic check. Mic check. We thank you for what you're doing. We thank you for what you're doing. You will win this one. We will win this one. Because you're right. Because you're right.
Okay, so we have a caller on the line. It's Hugh from New Jersey with a comment. Hi, Hugh. You are the first caller onto Occupy the Media. We're so excited.
Great, thank you. My question is, why do so many progressives accept the unions, drink the same free trade Kool-Aid as the conservatives when our trade deficit is America's leak in the dike? Isn't this bipartisan groupthink?
Okay, a good question, Hugh. Thanks a lot for your call. Don.
Well, Hugh was raising an issue that we could deal with, in another segment of Occupy, the media program. It's a legitimate debate within the union movement as to why they would support the free trade agreements. But what we want to focus on right now is this AT&T situation down in Atlanta. And clearly this is yet another effort by corporate power to undermine union power. In the case of AT&T, one of the largest corporations in the world, I think the second most profitable corporation in the United States last year, laying off hundreds of workers whose families are going to be affected by the layoffs, while at the same time, the very same time, compensating their CEO to the tune of $27 million.
And I think that's the real thing that makes people angry, because certainly companies sometimes need to shift into new technologies, they need to lay off workers, but as we've seen during this financial crisis, and even big companies that got government bailouts still compensating their corporate executives so greatly, so obscenely, in millions and millions of dollars, while at the same time laying off workers, that no matter your political stripe, I think is cause for deep concern, because is that real free trade if you have those types of ridiculous compensation that's not tied to real performance?
No, not at all. It's not free and it's not fair. It's not fair, and this is a fundamental issue of the Occupy movement. They are talking about fairness in the distribution of economic resources, fairness in income equality. The fact that CEOs, not only at AT&T but at corporations all over the country, are currently, receiving record-level compensation
Don,
packages.
we are going to have to continue this conversation in a second, but we're going to have to take a quick break. So don't go away. When we come back, we'll be talking about the latest big bank bailout at the expense of homeowners. But first, we want to hear from our social media viewers. Hundreds of retirees in West Virginia are occupying a major aluminum corporation because the company took away their health benefits. What would you do if this happened to you? To join the conversation, post your comments online at Facebook and Twitter.
Hello, I'm Antoinette June with another Occupy update. March 1st is the National Day for Education. The Occupy movement is calling on all students, teachers, workers, and parents from all levels of education to refuse to accept educational resegregation, massive tuition increases, outrageous student debt, and increasing privatization. For more information, please visit occupyed.org.